final defence. And we'll just look at one or two of these. We'll go from verse 5. This is like his final summing up almost. If I have walked in falsehood, or my foot has hurried after deceit, let God weigh me in honest scales, and he will know that I am blameless. If my steps have turned from the path, if my heart has been led by my eyes, or if my hands have been defiled, then may others eat what I have sown, and may my crops be uprooted. If my heart has been enticed by a woman, and if I have lurked at my neighbour's door, then may my wife grind another man's grain, and may other men sleep with her. For that would have been shameful, a sin to be judged. It is a fire that burns to destruction. It would have uprooted my harvest. And he keeps saying, if I'd done this, then let that happen. Let's look at one or two more. Verse 19. If I have seen anyone perishing for lack of clothing, or a needy man without a garment, and his heart did not bless me for warming him with the fleece from my sheep, if I have raised my hand against the fatherless, knowing that I had influence in court, then let my arm fall from the shoulder, let it be broken off at the joint. For I dreaded destruction from God, and for fear of his splendour I could not do such things. So he is justifying himself over again, and in a very subtle way saying, I haven't the foggiest idea why this has happened to me. I'm being picked on, and I've got a shrewd suspicion who's doing it. God. That's the way he feels. Look at verse 35 through to 37 in that same chapter. Chapter 31. Oh, that I had someone to hear me. Won't anyone listen? I sign now my defence. So here's my case. Let the Almighty answer me. Let my accuser put his indictment in writing. Surely I would wear it on my shoulder. I would put it on like a crown. I would give him an account of my every step. Like a prince, I would approach him. So here he is, he's getting a bit too big for his boots. He's saying, I've prepared the case. I'm innocent. I'm coming into your court, God. I know what to say. I hope you've made your case out, because I'm going to win this one. Isn't it amazing that we have all these questions on earth, and we say, when I get to glory, by his grace, I'll ask God that. I'll ask him, why did this happen, and why did that happen, Lord? And what was this allowed for? And yet the truth is, when we see him, when we see the King in his beauty, in that land that is afar off, we'll be speechless. We'll fall before him, lost in wonder, love and praise. We'll just bow at his feet when the battle's over, we'll present any crown he may give to us back to him, for he is worthy. Throughout endless ages, he is worthy. We can't think straight down here, and we can't see things clearly. We see through a glass darkly, but then, on that day, face to face. He longs to be vindicated. He is saying, in effect, let judgment fall if God can prove me wrong, but I know he can't. He just longs to be vindicated and his reputation to be restored. He wants that more than anything else. Now, in conclusion in this session, throughout the ages, people in pain have tried to puzzle out what's going on. Life can seem so unfair. And you find yourself saying, this can't be happening to me. It's not how the world's supposed to work. Maybe you know people who've been hurt by life. Senile parents for whom long life is a curse rather than a blessing. Some find length of days more a punishment than a privilege. And there were times when Job wanted to take an overdose and go to sleep and never wake up because he'd had enough. A rabbi called Harold Kushner wrote a very influential book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And in it, the rabbi quotes from Psalm 121, verses 1 and 2. Psalm 121, verse 1 and 2. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And this rabbi, who tackles a thorny problem and sometimes reaches conclusions that we wouldn't agree with, he says this: the scripture does not say my pain comes from the Lord. It doesn't say my tragedy comes from the Lord. It says my help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He says to ask, how could God do this to me, is probably the wrong question. Life sometimes is dreadfully unfair. A survivor from Auschwitz concentration camp said this: we owe God our lives for the few or many years we live, and we have the duty to worship him and do as he commands. That's what we're here on earth for, to be in God's service and to do God's bidding. Now, I've learned that when the starting point is Lamentations chapter 3, verse 22 through to 24, things that are out of focus can very often come back into focus.